BuildAid is so proud to be part of this amazing, bustling city of gold. Come behind the scenes with us as we explore what really goes into the development, refurbishment and creation of this incredible city we call home. From past to present, we look at what makes Jersey unique. This week we chat to Ettiene van der Merwe from JoJo Water Tanks about capturing the rain and saving water. We also looked at water towers in Joburg, specifically the one on top of Northcliffe Hill.
BuildAid on Mix 93.8 FM. Good evening. My name's Graham Alexander, as usual. Kay looking after all of us, and Simon on the desk.
And tonight we're looking for a place up on a hill with some of the best views in Jersey. It's a place for hiking, gevoefling, bird watching, Jersey photo taking. It's related to water as well, because that's what we're going to be talking about. So if you know which place we're talking about, you can see it from miles away, and you can see 4 miles when you're up there. Send us an SMS on 41348.
We're going to be chatting about water, saving water, harvesting water, and my guest is Ettiene van der Merwe from the company JoJo Tanks. Ettiene, welcome.
Thanks, Graham.
We'll be back in a sec, chatting about water. BuildAid on Mix, brought to you by AfriSam. We're chatting about water this evening, and I'm going to be chatting to Ettiene van der Merwe from the company JoJo. Now, Ettiene, you're the guys that have got a green tank on every second hill in South Africa.
Graham, yes, we're famous for those green tanks, but that's not the only colour we do.
And it's not the only tank that you do. You've got a whole variety of tanks that do different things, and we're going to be talking about a lot of them this evening.
Yes, Graham, JoJo Tanks are well known across the country, and we have several different applications for tanks, from industrial, commercial, so not just the little green round ones you see on the hills.
And you can have a look at those tanks on jojotanks.co.za.
That's right.
Quite a wide range. Just to set the scene, Ettiene, water, we're not prophets of doom and gloom, but we've also got to be realistic. That water is an issue, and we've just gone through a drought where if you drove around South Africa it was pretty frightening, although I was in the Free State 3 weeks ago and it was quite beautiful after the rains. But water is something that we have to pay more attention to, particularly in our domestic or residential environment, saving water, collecting water and so on. You're a specialist for JoJo in domestic water solutions. How many solutions are there that one can use as a homeowner?
Graham, there are a lot. We really can do a lot for saving water, not only in our use, but in other areas, like harvesting some rainwater, grey water, if you manage to use some of your grey water, reuse water. But there's a lot of different ways. We have been rather lax with water in South Africa. We've been very spoilt with fantastic water, and I think last year's drought highlighted the concerns in and around water.
There are going to be about 4 million more people in Johannesburg by the year 2020, and the Vaal Dam's probably going to still be the same size. Now, government, local government, and provincial government assure us that they are working on different plans for the future. So we're not going to second guess them. We're going to ask them to come and chat to us, and they'll give us the story. But we can help as homeowners on saving water, etc. But it's not really the subject tonight. Like fix the cistern in your toilet, because Joburg wastes millions of litres every month on toilets that continue to leak. What we're talking about tonight is more around harvesting and reusing water. Harvesting it's like rainwater harvesting. Are you farming water or something? Let's put it in simple terms. It means collecting rainwater.
Yes, that's right. And we do it in residences domestically. We do it commercially, and it's something that's really grown in the last couple of years. And the amount of water that can come off a roof, and the uses that we have for it, and the amount of water that we can save in our domestic applications is considerable and well worth it.
We want to go through rainwater harvesting. Grey water is simply reusing the water that's in your home, and then municipal backup is the last one that we want to chat to you about. And we'll also talk about the costs of these different installations. But let's start with rainwater, and maybe we could use a format of how do we collect it, where do we store it, and how do we use it. So let's start out with, how do you collect rainwater?
most of the domestic application is off our roofs. We've got a lot of roofs that when we start looking at bringing in rainwater into tanks and storing it and having it for different applications, we realize that most of our water comes off roofs. The advantage of taking it off the roof is it hasn't got to the ground and hasn't become groundwater or soiled, even worse. So really off roofs, existing gutters, if in some instances we have to install gutters and improve the infrastructure in and around rain harvesting, collection of the water off the roof, but predominantly off the roofs.
Could you collect it off paving?
It's very tricky, Graham. Once the water has hit the ground, it becomes the classification of the water changes from rainwater to groundwater, and it's a lot dirtier, and it's a lot harder to do something with that. So if we can catch water off a roof which is fairly clean, the water is a much better quality. If it's done properly with the right pre-filtration and the right infrastructure and design, it's a very clean, very good quality water that we can use.
Obviously, getting the water off the roof into gutters and pipes and so on needs a little bit of thinking and designing, because it's going to end up in a tank somewhere.
No, absolutely, Graham. I mean, that's one of the biggest pitfalls that we see, is that a little, a lack of planning and possibly maybe not necessarily have the right information and the right technical expertise. These rain harvesting systems that are going to be efficient, that are going to work well for many, many years and give you some kind of return, have to be well planned and well thought out.
If you're building a new home, you have the opportunity to plan correctly, particularly if they get hold of someone like yourself through JoJo. You can sit through and go through the application and the installation. On an existing home, you don't always have the architect or anyone involved. You're pretty much on your own. I would guess that a service like you guys offer then becomes important.
Yes, absolutely, Graham. You know, JoJo very proudly have an installers program, and if you go onto their website, you can actually see a list of installers in your area, and they can help you with this. They can give you technical help. They can assist you in some of this designing or retrofitting. Let's say an existing home that wants to add rain harvesting to it. So yes, but it's we see that a lot, and unfortunately, a lot of the things aren't thought through properly, and there's some shortcomings. There are some basic principles to rain harvesting, and like I mentioned just now, pre-filtration is very important. You know, you can't, the old adage of just pouring water into a tank off the corner of the roof, we've moved past that. We've got a lot of fantastic equipment now, and technology has improved and designs have improved, and we're doing a lot better work now with rainwater.
Yeah, Tim, we're going to come back and chat about, once we've got the water off the roof, where do we store it? BuildAid on Mix. I'm Graham Alexander, chatting to Ettiene van der Merwe from JoJo Tanks. Ettiene, you mentioned if you go up 10 meters, you get about a bar of pressure, and we were involved in a lot of game reserves, but one in particular that was quite mountainous outside Leidenburg. We got so much pressure we had a serious problem. It would just blow things off the end of the pipes.
Wow. How high up are the tanks, Graham? Up the hill?
It's pretty high.
Incredible.
But also a lot of volume being clear all the way down to the different pipes and the different lodges and so on.
It's incredible that, you know, that how much pressure can come from that, you know, and also we take it for granted how the incredible infrastructure from all these high points all over Joburg and all these reservoirs, but it's an awesome infrastructure.
Ettiene, we've chatted about 3 different installations. One is rainwater harvesting, collecting rainwater. The other was the grey water system, or recycling the water in your home. And then a municipal backup, storing municipal water. And I often say when we talk about costs, we've got to be careful, because it's like saying how long is a piece of string, because there are different installations and so on. But everybody needs to know more or less. If I'm going to collect rainwater, is this 10,000 Rand or 100,000 Rand? There's a proper installation and there's a DIY installation.
Sure.
And
no,
so
absolutely.
On. So let's start with rainwater. Give us some indication of the costs.
There are some good DIY alternatives, often, you know, that are offered by JoJo themselves, and then also through the various big wholesalers. You know, your costs are, for a simple rain harvesting system, are going to range from 10,000 all the way up into the hundreds of thousands, going for the bigger houses. We don't see too many installations going in for under 15,000 Rand as for a rain harvesting system. We're talking about adequate storage. We're talking about a little bit of guttering possibly, and even some pipe work, etc., etc. So it does go from there. For the grey harvesting systems, the DIY enthusiast has a couple of options available to him. There are some products available in South Africa. A quick search will point those out to you. But they start around 7,000 Rand. And then if you are going to have it professionally installed, that installation will obviously add on. We can, on the bigger grey water systems, where we turn that water into water that's good enough to reuse back into your house, those really do get expensive quickly. And they start at about 45,000 Rand and they go right up into the mid 100s and even bigger for some of the biggest systems.
You and I were chatting about a project that we're actually busy with, which is a reasonably sized home, and the clients want to put it in properly to a proper grey water system.
Yes.
And it's going to be about 150 to 200,000.
That's right.
If you do it right.
Fantastic, yes. But what they're going to get some amazing things from that. We're going to have a large rain harvesting system. It's going to produce a lot of water over the rainy season, and then throughout the year, using grey water on a daily basis, between 300 and 600 litres every single day. Water that they've used for showering and bathing and the simple uses is going to be put back into that house. So it's something that we're spending a lot more time on, and it's becoming a lot more popular. And I think, like we said earlier, the drought has highlighted it, the concerns in and around water. But we need to take some responsibility nowadays. We've been so lax with water in the past. We are in a dry country. We need to take responsibility, and we need to start implementing these systems.
Something Llewellyn van Wyk from the CSIR mentioned on this show at the end of last year was, if you're collecting rainwater, you can never store enough. And you need to work out those. So what does the average home use per day?
We base there's two sides to this. When we're talking about rainwater, we use the total consumption, which is in most of our suburbs and our houses, we're including irrigation and the big water uses. But in municipal backup terms, we talk about 150 to 200 litres per person per day, which is considerably less storage capacity than what you need for a rain harvesting system. Rain harvesting system, you need a lot more. Your average house is going from 30,000 litres per month all the way right up into the 150s, depending on gardens, etc., etc. So it does vary depending on whether you're talking about rainwater or whether you're talking about municipal. But the consideration, as I said previously, with rain harvesting is you really do need to try, and like he quite rightly pointed out, you cannot store enough. And the irony of rainwater is that when it's raining, your garden doesn't need it as much as when it isn't raining, and you can never store enough of it. But it can help. It can make a significant impact on your monthly bill. In the rainy season, I've assisted many clients having a zero bill. No, they do not pay for water in the rainy season because the system's well designed, they have adequate storage, they have correct filtration, all those components that make up a good system.
And I think that's the part we mustn't forget.
Absolutely.
During summer, you've got a lot of water, but you're reusing you're using the rainwater instead of municipal water, and you're
correct,
saving money.
And you're using it for the correct application. You have to have an application for whatever system you want to do, whether it's grey or rainwater. And if you're using that rainwater and you have an application, flushing toilets, doing all the dirty water uses, as we say, yes, absolutely.
Kay has a question that has come through.
It's a very quick yes or no answer. Tyron says, is it legal to collect rainwater in South Africa?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
it is. It's a very valid question, Tyron. Some countries and some states in America, they charge you or tax you for collecting rainwater. But quite interesting enough, in some European countries like Germany, they charge you for not collecting rainwater. They'll charge you extra service fees for water that would otherwise run off down into the roads and into stormwater drains. That would be quite interesting here. That would be good fun to try implement that.
Yeah, there should be some incentive to saving water.
Yes, and one of the truths about rainwater harvesting is that we're stopping the water from just flowing down the roads, down the storm waters, and exiting without being able to go back into the land, going back into the grounds. It could play a significant role if every house had. And I know you and I spoke about some of the new building regulations that might be coming out, and we're hoping to see a real strong leaning towards having regulations as far as rain harvesting and collecting water off our roofs.
Before we check the answer to Kay's question, is if you go to jojotanks.co.za, you have some pricing cost examples on your website.
There are some ideas. JoJo, we've worked very hard to try put an idea out there as to some guidelines as to what some of the installation costs could be. As you said, a piece of string, but it's just to give you an idea. So what you can do. There's a lot of information on the website. You can go through it. You can find installers in your area that that might be able to assist you with the project. There's also information on tanks. There's also quite a bit of information on rain harvesting, on municipal backups, and on systems that you can possibly use.
Okay, the answer, please.
First, I've got to tell you that we had an anonymous person message in to say it's still a good place to get lucky because this person got lucky with their fiancé not so long ago. So the answer to the question is Northcliffe Hill, the water tower on Northcliffe Hill. And most of you got it right. Well done.
There we go, Kay. And Kay, thanks so much for looking after us. Simon on the desk and Ian videoing the show. But most importantly, thanks to you guys out there and to Ettiene for chatting to us about water. Thank you, Ettiene.
Thank you, Graham.
We do this every Wednesday between 6 and 7. Up next is The Greatest Show on Earth. Talk to you next week. Ciao.
But there's something online, and I can't hurt you bad. There must be so much love in my heart that it would tear me apart. And I know, although you couldn't see, to hurt you. Queensbridge, you would only moan after you.